Boys, girls, all my Trumbullhogs out there, welcome back to what is now known as the Model Nerds, no longer Other Robert. And we are talking some Captain America Civil War. Now, as always, this is a dialogue. This isn't just me rambling. This is me starting the conversation here. And we talk about this down below. So, let's get started. So, I have my notes here. Real quick, I want to say that these movies, these Marvel movies, the expectations just keep getting higher and higher. They keep setting the bar higher and higher, and they continue to outdo themselves every single outing. And this movie was no exception. Captain America Civil War was a great entry in the Marvel movies as a whole, and really, from a character standpoint, we had some really, really effective character development for really plenty of characters, not really even the forefront characters, but a lot of secondary characters as well. So let me just say that the pacing for this movie was fantastic. It to me at least, never really dragged. It felt like everything really built nicely to a conclusion, and really just not only in this movie, but these larger movies in general. The pacing is so well done, and what I mean by that is you have secondary characters like Scarlet Witch, who's not one of the is not the most important character. She's an Avenger, but she's not the most important character, and she's there. And they introduced her in Avengers: Age of Ultron, and we got some of her in there. We got more here. It feels like they're really telling the right story with that character, and we got a little bit more. I think next time we'll get maybe even a little bit more. I think they're really telling her story nicely, as well as the Visions, two solid. I would call them secondary characters at this point because they weren't at the forefront, who are getting incredible development. And really in this movie, they got really effective development, and you wouldn't really expect it for Captain America: Civil War, but these two characters I think came out of this movie shining. In a movie with a lot of characters. I think a lot can be said for these two characters. As well as those two characters, we also had two new characters with Spider-Man and Black Panther, who also, in their debuts, really, really went over well, I think, with the audience. I think a lot of people are not going to know or be aware of Black Panther, and I think they did a nice job of introducing him to everyone, and really making the character have this kind of mysterious aura about him that you want to see more. And he would be in the movie, he'd kind of be lurking and sneaking, and he'd be in the fight. He was definitely in the fights at times, but he was a very kind of withdrawn character at times, in terms of kind of watching others do what they do and then waiting for his moment to strike, and very calculating. What it seemed, the character, even though he kind of had this desire for revenge, it was a very kind of calculated revenge. And like I said, just a very kind of mysterious character. And even towards the end, I'll get to it in the end because this is more of a spoiler video. You see a lot in terms of this mystery of what to expect with Black Panther, and really for that story to unfold. And Spider-Man, who I think went over very nicely. I mean, you had the entire internet, I feel like, says that Tobey Maguire was a great Spider-Man, not a great Peter Parker, or whatever, vice versa. I don't agree with any of those. I think they were both nice, and they were both effective in both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. But people say, Maguire was better this, Garfield was better this. I think the new Spider-Man, Tom Holland, I think he's going to kind of appeal to both sides. I think he did both roles, I guess you could say, perfectly from what we saw. We definitely, I feel like, saw a little bit more of the wisecracking Spider-Man than we saw of Peter Parker in his everyday life, because that wasn't really going to be portrayed here. We got it a little bit with his interactions with Aunt May, played by Marissa Tomei. I know it's weird, and I'm glad to see that it looks like we're not going to get Uncle Ben, because if Marissa Tomei is Aunt May, who's Uncle Ben going to be? Brad Pitt? I mean, it's really not Aunt May and Uncle Ben at that point. So Spider-Man, really nice introduction. He seems like the character. He seems perfect. I think that they really knew what they wanted to do with Spider-Man, and that was really the character. And I feel like the McGuire Spider-Man, that was great, and I feel like they kind of did their own thing with it. And then I thought Garfield's Spider-Man was great. Maybe not the movies, but Garfield's depiction, I thought it was great. Again, they kind of did their own little thing with that. This, I feel like, will be very true to what people expect with Spider-Man. And he was funny. He was definitely very funny. And he had a good amount of ample screen time, not too much, not too little. I think it was really just right in terms of Spider-Man, and really kind of whet people's appetites for Spider-Man: Homecoming coming in 2017. So, excuse me for a second while I get back my notes. I'm going to start talking some spoilers, because that's what I really want to make this video about, and we're already almost 7 minutes in. So, let's talk some spoilers. I'm just going to talk real quick about Baron Zemo. I don't even know if he was called Baron in this movie. I heard something Zemo. I'm going to be seeing the movie again, but I'll just call him Zemo. In the credits, his name was Zemo. So Zemo was a really interesting villain to have, because he didn't even seem genuinely evil. They made him kind of darkly relatable in the sense that you understood where he was coming from. And a lot of villains in the Marvel movies, I mean, some of them, I guess, can be relatable. I feel like Daredevil does that better with Wilson Fisk and Punisher. I feel like the movies, it's kind of harder to get that with these characters like Loki and Ultron, right? Because he's a robot. It's hard to kind of get these relatable characters, but Zemo kind of had that going on, and he was very calculated and very clever, and that was kind of his superpower. Even though it wasn't a superpower, he didn't have any powers. He didn't try to. He was a manipulator, and that's what he did. And he had a clear cut goal. He had a purpose. He had his motives and everything. And he didn't have too much time. He was a nice little villain, I would call it, in the sense of not size, but in his role. He was there to push the story forward. He gave a memorable performance in his own right, and I don't think we've seen the last of him. And I think that's a good thing. I think he kind of clicked in a way that many other villains probably don't in terms of the Marvel movies, in terms of kind of that relatable factor. I think, I'm not saying he's the only one to be relatable. I'm saying it came off so well. And obviously he took it kind of to an extreme, especially towards the end, but his goals were clear cut. Everything was very much out there for us to know, and it was good to have a villain with goals and motives and all that, especially when he was kind of a smaller role. So I'm not gonna be talking about every single character in this movie. I really couldn't. I wouldn't have time. Winter Soldier was great. Ant-Man was really funny. He was great. I loved seeing him interact with everyone else. Falcon, War Machine, they're all great. I really don't have time to talk about all of them. I wish I could. I want to talk about the ending, though, and what we got. And we saw, I'm going to talk about a specific scene, the end of the climax, the fight with Winter Soldier, Captain America, and Iron Man. Captain America dropping the shield, the damaged shield, symbolizing the damage of the Avengers. I could see some people saying damage America at that point because of the government getting involved and the America being on the shield. I don't think that's what they were going for. I think it was really more just to symbolize the cracking of the Avengers. And it was interesting not to have Fury in this movie. No Samuel L. Jackson. His character was so prominent and so important, especially early on in the Avengers. To have him not here, where the Avengers kind of crumble, it didn't make much sense unless they're planning to insert him later for effect. I can see that. So maybe they're gonna kind of wait and build to that moment. But if not, it's just did they write him off? I don't know. He should have been here. He really should have been here unless they're planning to insert him later, and this absence adds to that. I can get that. So I'm not going to talk too much on that. It was just something I wanted to note. But really, that cracking of the shield, I think that was a very interesting scene in terms of this movie, especially because it seemed like things were all patched up 5 minutes before that, and then they quickly were not. And for the future, I mean, what does this hold for the future, right? I don't know. I mean, at this point, we can all just play our guessing games. And I personally think he's going to sit some movies out. I know some people are saying maybe he'll be in the Black Panther solo movie. That makes sense. I get it. I think the right thing to do with him right now is sit him out. Have Captain America disappear. He doesn't even have the shield. I'm not saying the shield makes the character, but I'm saying it would make sense if when he left the shield, that marks the end of Captain America right now. They write him off right now. They insert him back into Avengers Infinity War Part 2, or in Part 1 at the very end, you see the shield or something like that, or you see him and it hypes up Part 2. But really, I don't think he should have another prominent role. Maybe even speak a word. Maybe if you have him in Part 1, you just show him and not even have him say anything. He doesn't come back in a prominent role until Part 2. I think that's when you have all these characters team up to take on Thanos. I don't think he should be around. Plus, the Avengers, these characters are adding and it's multiplying, it's getting bigger. Especially Strange is coming. Just take the time to build these characters. Don't rely too much on Captain America, so write him off for now. Bring him back in Part 2, and the absence makes the heart grow fonder. Even though people love Captain America, they'll really love him when he comes back. People are gonna miss him. People are gonna love to see him back to take on Thanos. And at that point, maybe that's when everything starts to become peachy again. Because until then, it looks like this didn't really solve anything. It looks like this is going to be a constant struggle between these kind of government Avengers and kind of ragtag Avengers. So that's why I think the best way to go with Captain America is. I want to know what you guys think about that. Let's talk about that. What do you expect? Do you think he's just going to be in really the next kind of team up movie? I can see it. I'm just saying from a story perspective, this would make a ton of sense. So this is my guess. But also, let's talk about these post-credit scenes. We have the Black Panther scene, which really both of these scenes really just gave you a little taste of what to expect in the standalone movies for the new characters we were introduced to in this movie. Black Panther, we saw Wakanda, which looks interesting, and it's still just kind of a mystery around it, and it's very secluded. It looks, it's very in the shadows, just like how Black Panther kind of came across in the movie. And that's the right way to go with that. I think they're making this such an ominous, really kind of character and location and everything, and I can't wait to see where that goes in terms of that sense, because it seems like it's going to completely have a completely different tone. And when you have all these characters in all these different movies, to have a new tone, which isn't really going to overlap with any others, is pretty crazy to think about. When all these movies are essentially the same cohesive unit, to have Ant-Man and Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and Doctor Strange, all these, and Guardians of the Galaxy, to have all these, even though they don't, they're not really part of the Avengers. So to have all these movies for the same team that all have a different tone, and then to introduce Black Panther, who that seems like it's going to be completely different. I mean, bravo, right? I mean, that's storytelling at its finest, and really, it's just the amount they can juggle successfully amazes me. So, I mean, I think a lot needs to be said for that. Then Spider-Man, we got that introduction, that little credit scene for kind of, I guess, what to expect in terms of his relationship with May and kind of just him hanging out, really just him. And I like it was campy. It was, it was funny. It was Peter Parker, so I think that was good just to kind of solidify this is where we're going with Spider-Man. This is what he's going to be, and I think that just not only that scene, but really his performance in the movie. I think that sealed a lot of people because a lot of people are tired of seeing the reboots with Spider-Man, all these different movies, and I get it. I mean, I think a lot of people don't. I get it. I got why they were doing it. I think a lot of people don't. The general audience did not get it, why they were doing it, and why it kept going. I think people were just tired of it. But now I think throwing Spider-Man into the Marvel Universe really just gave this character a jolt of energy that I think the general audience is gonna. I mean, they love it. Everyone's clapping for Spider-Man. Everyone loves Spider-Man, right? Not everyone loved Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Not everyone loved Spider-Man 3. So people haven't loved Spider-Man in over 10 years at this point in a movie, you know? So I think this movie really just gave a jolt of energy to Spider-Man. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to Spider-Man Homecoming. It was funny to see they kept saying Homecoming. It was one of Winter Soldier's trigger words. It was funny to see that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. It's a longer video. It's probably the longest video you guys have seen me on by myself on this channel. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to say for Captain America Civil War. Like I said, this is just me opening up the dialogue. So let's talk about this. What do you guys think? I skipped a lot of things. I mean, it was a big movie, so much to tackle, and I don't have too much time to talk about it. So let's talk about it. Whatever you guys want. And before I wrap up here, I'm going to have a link down below. Just want to kind of shout out, give a plug to a friend of mine, Chris, and his girlfriend have a YouTube channel. I'm going to have their links down below. Go check them out. I've seen a few of their videos. One of them is, especially, it's very funny. It's annoying things boyfriends and girlfriends do, something to that effect. Go watch it. It's very funny. Go subscribe to the channel and tell them Joe sent you. But that's everything for this video. Let me know what you guys thought about the movie, where this is going, anything you want to talk about, all that jazz. And subscribe because it takes around this much effort to do so. And go subscribe to the channel down below because it takes that much effort to do so. Go subscribe to RJ Reviews. I don't have another hand because it takes just... You get it. And until next time, you have been traumatized.